Okay, so I've got a little clip for you that shows me forming the reinforcing bulkhead that goes between the last two bulkheads in the tail cone. This is just a simple little flanged bulkhead. I didn't go into really great detail about forming the bulkhead itself or show any of that really, because it's stuff that I've done before. You know, you've seen it before, and if there's any particular questions, why just throw them in the comment section for me below, and I'll do my best to answer them if there's questions for that. A little bit of housekeeping along the way. I've had a couple of comments here just over the last video or two. I guess both of these are over the last video. One of them was why am I, or what's happening with the corn tool and cutter grinder project, the grown up corn. I'm still working on that project. I think I've put out the last bit of information that I actually had video of for that, and the next thing's probably going to be the engraving the dial and or laying out the graduations on the dial and or starting on the spindle. One of those two. I've switched focus again just for a little bit. It's still very much at the top of my list, but things get busy and you get to doing other projects, and summer's here, so the front of the shop I can cool it down to about between 85 and 90, and now we're already hitting 100 days here the last couple of days, and we're supposed to get to 103 and 105 I think over the next couple more days. So when I was operating the shop full time, why, I'd be there in the heat, even though the air conditioner's running and stuff, it still gets fairly warm there. I'd be there doing stuff. Now that I'm not running that shop, I don't have to be doing that. I can work on other projects where I can stay a little bit cooler. Back in the airplane factory, I run the swamp cooler, and actually this clip that you'll see has got the swamp cooler running in the background. Hopefully it's not too bad on the audio, and I don't believe it is. But I can cool that down to about 73, 75 degrees, you know, and it's very comfortable for me to work. So when it's hot like this, why, that's where I go. Other projects going on. I'm waiting on the needle bearings to go in the underdrive unit on the Sheldon lathe. They've been ordered and they're taking their sweet time getting here, but hopefully within the next week they'll be here. The last video on the Mustang that I just now released, why that footage was actually shot back in March, and here we are in July now. So that's 3-month-old footage that I just haven't edited and put out because I've been working on the corn, or I've been putting out video footage of the corn. So there's still all kinds of other projects going. The other question was about, and it just came through this morning, about discrepancies in the Midget Mustang plans and converting to CAD, that type of thing. My response to that is, when you look at the bulkheads, the drawings for the bulkheads, and it's been documented before, they don't match. The left and the right hand side, they're not perfectly symmetrical. Those are drawings that were originally drawn by Bob Bushby, probably however many years ago, back in the 60s, and they're not perfectly symmetrical on the center line. So I've got an early set of plans, and then I've got a fairly recent set of plans that are, well, I think these are less than a year old now. The plans are no different. They're not symmetrical. How I coped with that is I do my best to kind of figure out where I think things should be, follow those drawings pretty closely, even though I know they're not symmetrical, and we'll make adjustments on, when we set those up in the jig to make sure our spacing is right, and our hopefully our fuselage skins are nice and smooth through, from front to back across those bulkheads, and I'll make adjustments to those bulkheads both on the flanges and whatever else we need to do to make those come out right. Guys have talked about setting those up in CAD before and drawing them out and everything, and it's always a one-off thing. Realistically, you're not going to produce these and distribute them, so you're doing a set for your own use, for your own enjoyment, I guess. I personally would not get hung up on that, and I've talked about that on the Zenith list too. Guys will say they want them drawn in CAD and produced that way. For the one-off Mustang that you're going to build, whether it's a Midget Mustang or whether it's a an M2, to me it's kind of a waste of time. And you know, if you're doing them in CAD, why, you can draw one half and you can mirror image them. The problem with that is you don't know which half of these drawings is the proper layout or proper symmetry on them, curvature and everything like that. So I personally wouldn't get too caught up in that. You know, adjustments can be made as you go down the path and are building this. While you're going to adjust your flanges, you're going to shim them if necessary, you're going to do this, that, or something else. My old set of plans, which are blueprint style plans, and the newer set, which are just computer generated and printed out, there's no difference in those drawings. The new drawings are not any better than the old drawings. So they're just as asymmetrical on the new drawings as they were on the old drawings. So there again, it's nothing I get too concerned about. You want things to be as symmetrical as you can. You want things to be as perfect as you can, but you don't have control of all those factors. You know, you're going to adjust that fuselage to be straight and true, and hopefully everything will fly the way it's supposed to. When you take into account all the other things that are going to affect the flight characteristics of that airplane on the fuselage itself, are you putting angle into your motor mount? Are you taking into account P factor? Are you offsetting your rudder? You know, all of these things are going to affect how the fuselage itself performs. You know, to me, it's more important to have the wings as perfect as we can get them, as symmetrical as we can get them, than it is the fuselage. Now, I'm not downplaying the importance of having it be straight or true at all, but it seems to me that if my wings are true and everything's set up the way it's supposed to be there, and I've done as much as I can on the fuselage and controlled as many factors as I can without just really being anal about it, why, I'm hopefully going to end up with an airplane that will fly perfectly satisfactory manner in the way I want it to perform. You know, better is going to be better, but we can only do so much with what we've got to work with. So I wouldn't get too caught up on the asymmetry of the fuselage itself. You know, like I say, you can, if you want, why, you can take, if you're hand drawing those, you can trace them out. You can fold it in half and, you know, mirror it, trace it through, so you've mirrored it that way by hand. If you're insistent on putting them into CAD, why, then you can draw half of it up and mirror it. But I don't know that you're really gaining anything by doing that. So anyway, we're just building airplanes, so we do the best we can and go from there. So I think that's mainly what I've got going on. That's kind of the catch up of what's happening in the shop and stuff. I do these with the idea that hopefully it will give you some ideas that maybe you can utilize in your airplane build. As I said before, I don't see a whole lot of documentation per se on individual components for the Midget Mustang. So if we can help somebody along with that, why, by taking my ideas, whether they're right or wrong, filter through and use your own best judgment as to what's going to work, and hopefully you can get something from that. Factory support from Mustang Aeronautics. I see it's going around on the list again that it's pretty much non-existent. Guys are getting a little angrier about not receiving parts that they've ordered and things like that. As I said before, this is a scratch built only project. I would not even begin to do a Midget Mustang or a Mustang 2 with the idea that I'm going to have to depend on Mustang Aeronautics. Everything can be scratch built for both airplanes. The only exception I'm seeing to that may be on the Mustang 2, the main spar cap strips may be an issue, because they're a one-piece extrusion that are kind of goofy. Now, I've talked to a aeronautical engineer, which happens to be my son, and we've discussed it a little bit. We think there's some ways around that it can be safely done. We haven't delved into that too much, and if we eventually get to a Mustang 2 project, we may look at that a little bit closer. But anyway, right now that's a moot point. But the only thing that I think that cannot be scratch built is the main spar caps for the Mustang 2. You know, as far as the Midget Mustang, all the rest of the hurdles can be overcome if you're willing to take the time and put forth the energy to do that. Anyway, enjoy the video. Hopefully you find something useful, and I'll tell you now, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch. I appreciate the support. We're working on the reinforcing bulkhead that goes on the tail cone and it goes between station 177.5 and 182. And the way it sits, and we've got it formed partially here, I'll go back over what we did. But this will sit right here like this, and this one will mount right here against it. So that's the way that reinforcing block goes on. So this is the drawing for it, which really doesn't mean a whole lot now at this point in time, but what I did was built my form block, gave it some draft on the edge, and this was added on extra so I could cut the hole. But I went ahead, laid it out with my 5/8 inch magic washer right here, and we had to build a 5/8 washer. We didn't have one. So we got that done and took our form block, made a backing block for it, centered it up, formed it in. We cut our relief holes, or drilled our relief holes in the end, and I've still got a little cleanup to do on these edges, but I'm really happy with it so far. So, and then we just formed it like we would any other bulkhead. So to cut the hole in it, this calls for a 3 1/4 inch hole. I did not have a 3 1/4 inch hole saw, so what I did was I took a piece of scrap wood. This is just a piece of scrap that I had. Took the form block that I used for this, put it on here with my center hole where I wanted to set it on the milling machine table. Drill press table would work just as well. And I put it on there, and I just pin nailed this from the back side with the, this form block I just pin nailed through here because I'm going to pull it back off of here. Set my formed bulkhead there. Just took a couple pieces of scrap, butted up against it, and pin nailed them on. So then I set it on the mill table and took a circle cutter, set it just under 3 1/4 inches, and set it up to cut it. Clamped it down on the corners, just with standard clamp down on the mill table. You can clamp it down the same way on a drill press, and held it in position. And then I just cut my hole, slightly undersized. And I did it slightly undersized intentionally because I like to take, when I deburr it, I can massage that hole open just a little bit so that it'll take on my form blocks, because this has got to be flanged. This is a flange block that I made several years ago when I started my original Midget Mustang that's now become this Midget Mustang, and this was set for a 3 1/4 inch. So just opened it up to where it was just a nice fit over the top of it, ready to be flanged. And this flanges upward to go the same way these flanges go. 30-degree flange on it. So the backing plate does not fit down in here, obviously. And I've got several of these that I'd already produced, and they're formed just like that. They're shaped just like that. Trex decking, you know, I've built form blocks for the Zenith and I've actually sold a bunch of those, although I've quit building those for now. But Trex decking, standard width, and then I shaped them up there. So since this one has to be flanged inside, I took the bottom part of this and it went to the bandsaw and then over to the little oscillating spindle sander and smoothed it up so that it is a nice fit down inside, just like that. So the way this is going to go is we're going to take our form block, we're going to set it on there, or our flanging die, we're going to set it on there just like that. We're going to lube this all up with pledge. We're going to set that on there and make sure it's going to center up the way I want it to, and there's clearance for it to float so that it will. And we're going to go over to the little hydraulic press. So let's move it over there and we'll get this flanged up, and then this will be done, other than just a little smoothing and straightening edges. Get these greased up real nice. And we're going to take that, we're going to drop her in there just like that. Make sure everything floats a little bit. You got room all the way around. Could have put a spacer underneath there to take up part of that. So I have to pump all day. There again, one-off thing. And that should be it right there. I'm hoping anyway. Yeah, it looks really nice. I'm going to grab a paper towel. A little bit of tuning up, but there's our flange. Another part done to go on the stack. Won't be long. We've got I've got the materials cut for the last two tail cones there. It's the first time that flanging die has been used. Leave that pledge on there, give it a little bit of a lubrication, and it'll go back in the drawer. I'll mark the bottom of what size it is. So anyway, that's the way I formed up that reinforcing rib. The only two bulkheads that are reinforcing bulkhead, the only two bulkheads I have left to do are the two tail cone bulkheads, which are, we already looked at them, this one and this one. And I've got the blanks cut out for them, or the rough pieces cut out for them. So I'll probably get around and start working on them today. But anyway, that's the way that goes together. One more part done. This one, hit the back just to knock the crap off of the little nail burrs on there. There's our backup block that goes with it. And it can go into the pile of form blocks. That one's done, and we'll go on to these other two bulkheads.